So, Lady D, I can't speak to the magic variety. I don't even think they grow here where I'm from. But these mushrooms, the morels, so it's a really interesting sort of cycle they got going, and it all starts with the bark elm beetle. And elms are generally where you're going to find the morels around, which is this tree I keep circling around in this video. And so they start by eating the tops of the trees, the bark off the tops of the trees, to be more specific, which is why they're called the bark elm beetle. It's an elm tree, and they're eating the bark off the tree, and they're a beetle. Okay? And this is what starts killing the tree. And you'll see bark falling off of the tops of the tree limbs. That's the trees I look for. Okay? And then, as a tree starts dying, is when the morels start being produced. Now, one of the really cool things about the... Let me turn the scanner down here. One of the really cool things about the morel mushrooms that I've found is, So whether it's on a steep hill or a super shallow hill, you're going to find the roots underground. You won't find them, but they're going to run underground, and they're generally going to run downhill. And that's where you're going to find the majority of these Morel's mushrooms coming from. They're coming from the roots. And so when the elm bark beetle bites into the tree and starts eating that bark, it gives it this Morel fungus, and it ends up traveling down through the roots where it turns to mycelium, and then it fruits for anywhere from 3 to 5 years. Last year I got about 1.5 pounds or so off of this tree. But it's just a really interesting life cycle. And no, I don't make truffles. I don't think truffles grow on the ground here. These aren't truffles, but they're comparable in the sense that they only come a certain time of the year. Unfortunately, dogs or pigs or whatever you have, they're not going to sniff them out here. I've tried training my dog to no avail. But as not many people in the state are reporting any fines or mini fines, I'd say I'm getting the hang of things after 15 years. Hey, Mr. Duty Dude. Yeah, I sell them. I've been selling them for the last couple of years for 60 a pound. I've been selling them for probably 8 or 9 years. Um, it took me 5 or 6 years before was getting enough to get full and then want to sell some after that. They used to be $20 a pound 15 years ago when I started hunting them. And then, the economy and inflation and all that jumbo. You know, Back then, when they were still 20 a pound here, though, they were going for 100 pound in Arizona. So it has a lot to do with, how common they are, because they don't really grow in Arizona. The closest you can get is about the northeastern side of Texas, a little bit in the far east edge of the panhandle, but not a whole lot. Nothing like what you get in the northern states or the Midwest. And so, I wouldn't be surprised if you could get 200 a pound down in Arizona for them now. You'd have to have a hell of a lot of mushrooms in order to make a trip down there, but if you got a big enough truck or a big enough trailer, I would think you would be able to make it profitable. But I've spent already 22 hours out here in the woods hunting this year, and I'm at a pound, so it's not something, granted they're still a little bit early, I'm hoping. I'm not going to give too much away, but what's real funny is I get these people, so I'll post on Craigslist or on Next Door Neighbor on Facebook, and $60 a pound, I'm firm, I'm not budging. And they'll message me and they'll say, hey, I've got them for $40 a pound on Craigslist last year, and somebody had them on there the other week, and there's somebody who says they're selling them for 45 right now. How about you sell yours for 45? Well, if somebody else is selling them for 40 or 45 or the other week, buy theirs. They want me to lower my price, and it just cracks me up. Back to the tunes. Yeah, I've been hunting. This is my 15th year. I started from nothing more than a mushroom board message board, you know, where people post, and just going out there and learning myself. It was this old hippie guy named Maynard who he served in Vietnam. He had some of that Agent Orange. You got a little exposure to that or whatever, but he would always tell me about him, and he just kind of in speaking to me, it got me looking online, and then I seen all these people posting about it, and I'm like, well, I've got to try this. And when I first started hunting, I mean, I loved them, eating them. I still love eating them. But the funny thing is I like hunting them more now than I do eating them. Because, I mean, it takes a lot of time and it's a big mess to cook these things up. You got to egg them and milk them and bread them and then mix seasoning in there. And then deep fry them in oil, and you got to keep changing the oil out. And but they're super tasty. Other people like to saute them, but it's one of those things that's kind of an acquired taste too. I mean, some people, if you cook it deep fried, I've never met anybody that doesn't like them deep fried. Sauteed, I personally think it ruins them because they just put it in butter and it just gets real soggy, and so it doesn't have any real texture. It's just like eating slime, and I'm not big on slime.